This episode of the Leap Forward podcast is brought to you by Bridge LT, leaders in conversational learning and innovation. Through AI role plays, technical simulators, and comprehensive training programs, Bridge LT is revolutionizing the future of corporate and enterprise education.
On this episode of Leap Forward, we chat with Mikalaida Imbor, a Harley-Davidson performance specialist whose passion for motorcycles began with childhood dreams of customization. Mikalai shares his journey from mechanic to tuning expert, highlighting how technology like advanced diagnostics and AI is transforming the industry. He also discusses the challenges of balancing mechanical expertise with evolving electronics and offering key advice for aspiring technicians. So I'm delighted to welcome to this edition of Leap Forward, Mikalaida Imbor. Mikalai, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
I love your outfit. You're on brand today.
Yes, I'm at work, so I'm all branded out in Harley swag. That's how we do it.
So yeah, in case anyone is listening to this, not watching, perhaps you can just kind of briefly describe your role and the business that you're working for at the moment.
I work at Harley Davidson dealership, and my role is right now a bit complicated, I would say. Um, I am a performance specialist, so I mostly do tuning, performance upgrades, and generally performance-related stuff to motorcycles. Um, However, I'm also working a lot with service in advanced diagnostics and stuff like that.
And so the complication of that is that you're effectively doing a multitude of different roles.
Oh yes, yes. I am a one-man band, you could say. Throughout the years working for the dealership, I went through pretty much uh, almost every role you could have at the dealership, except for bike sales themselves. So I was a technician, I was a service writer, service manager, parts and accessories guy, and I sold a couple clothes as well because I had to, because there were a lot of customers that needed to be taken care of. But those three roles, so technician, uh, service writer, and PNA, was like a full-time jobs for me. So now that I do mostly tuning, I also base a lot of my work around my previous experience.
So that previous experience, let's zero in a little bit more. So let's rewind right to the kind of the beginning, I suppose. Give us a plotted history of your kind of journey to date.
Okay, so I kind of always was interested in motorcycles and Harley Davidson brand especially, but I didn't have anyone in, in, like friends or family who was riding, so I didn't have like a way into the industry. So I was trying to find a way in um, while I was studying. I was studying mechanical engineering. That did not work out for me at the time. I dropped out. However, thanks to that, I found my first job at a motorcycle shop. That was all brands, multi-brand, just a repair shop. And at this point, I had no experience in mechanics at all. I just always wanted to do it. And I was lucky enough to find someone that was willing to teach me from the basics, from the very basics. So I spent the first, I think, year and a half in that shop, learning pretty much just the basics of maintenance of many brands of motorcycles. And then I had a very brief, short experience in Indian dealership, and then I got a job my dream job pretty much at Harley Davidson dealership as a technician, and that was back in late 2017 when I started in the dealership. And from there, it was a couple years as a technician, um, going through the steps of Harley Davidson learning process, because Harley Davidson has its own, we call it Harley Davidson University for employees, and that is mostly, how do you say it? Um, the path to become master in service is the longest one. You cannot do it in like half a year. This takes years mostly. So I was going up the ladder for a couple of years. In the meantime, because of injury, I had to stop working in the service area full time. But at the time, my colleague who was service writer was searching different opportunities. So his role was vacant for me to fill in. And then I started, moving around the dealership a bit, while still performing some diagnostic related tasks, mostly in the service. However, forever my biggest dream, you could say, or my biggest interest was performance and tuning, and just pushing to the limits, pushing machines to the limits. So I'm fortunate enough to have a boss that supports my ideas. So at some point we got a dyno, and I was fortunate to be able to learn while working here and develop myself into this area. So right now I have my own one man department, I would say, performance department, um, and I pretty much do what I love to do.
Love it. So tell me why. Um, I think when you made the phrase "dream job," first of all, you were referring to Harley Davidson. But tell me a little bit more about kind of your love for the brand.
Um, I don't think there is a clear answer to that. I was When I was a kid, I was watching a lot of Discovery Channel and stuff like that, and at the time, it was probably early 2000s. There were a lot of motorcycling shows on Discovery, and that got me like hooked up on the whole idea of customization, not just having the bike and riding it, but doing something to it. And no other brand makes it as available, and no other brand does it like Harley, pretty much. Um, so I think that this is where it started, and I had a very big big interest in the American culture in general, um, because it's everywhere. When I was a kid, all the movies were from Hollywood. The music was from the U.S. So it was kind of like a dreamland, being a kid at least. Now it's a bit, different, but but that's where the passion came from. And then it started living in my head. Um, the brand, the motorcycles, the Harley Davidson started meaning something to me, something personal. The freedom, all the marketing slogans started living inside of me, and this is pretty much how it happened. I think this is what brought me to the brand.
Very, very cool. And talking about, I suppose, the job itself today, and you've been doing this now for a long time. How was how was kind of the sort of as technology transformed, your job, your role, and what you can do in it?
So when I was starting in 2017, it was the first year that Milwaukee 8 engine platform was introduced. So we were still working a lot on the previous platform, and that was the previous platform in its form was introduced in I don't want to lie to you, but I think 99 or 2000. So it was already 17, 18 years in production with very minor changes. So the the advancement to another platform was a big one. It was a big change in regards of how those machines work, how they're designed. Even things like tolerances were different. The electronics were more advanced. So this obviously was a big step. But I started working as this change was happening, so it was pretty natural to me. Over the years, a couple things changed, not that much, up until the year 23 and a half, which was introduction of generation 2 of Milwaukee 8 engines and a new platform for touring motorcycles, and now this year, new platform for Softails as well. And this is another huge change that I experience a bit differently because I'm already used to the previous generation of bikes, and now I get to experience something new, and it's very exciting, honestly. Of course, there are many new things we have to learn as technicians, um, and it mostly applies because mechanics are fairly easy, I would say. They're easier to understand for most mechanics. What is the most difficult are the electronics and diagnostics. This is for many people a big difficulty, I would say. And those new bikes bring in many more things to learn. So, um, but this is exciting. This keeps us learning and not stalling in place. So this is very good, I would say. And for me especially, I love learning new stuff. This is why I keep pretty much. This is why I took so many roles in the dealership. I was always hungry to learn something else, even if it was something you could say not very exciting, like selling stuff or talking to customers, or just a different approach to work based off of my previous knowledge. So I really enjoyed the changes. For now, we'll see how things develop. Of course, everything is changing all the time. The laws are evolving, and in my line of work, I mostly do off-road use vehicles only anyway, because it is what it is. If you want to be compliant with the laws we have, and then of course, um, those are off-road vehicles use only. But there are many restrictions and many obstacles that for now are very difficult to work with, I would say.
All the way through that change, you gave a really sort of good example of how you, I suppose, develop, as a person, as a professional in your kind of career. You've thrown yourself into all of these different roles. How do you like to learn, and how does Harley support you in that learning journey?
So Harley Davidson, as I said, has this Harley Davidson University, which for most roles it's virtual only at this point. There are virtual learnings, e-learnings for most employees. However, for technicians, it is vastly different because technician's role is vastly different. You have to obtain a certain skill set and experience as a technician. So there are a couple of schools, Harley Davidson University schools in Europe, all over the world, that carry instructor-led trainings for technicians. And there are, like, I think at this point, 7 or 8 classes that you go through over the years. Mm, so this is something uh, that is on Harley's side. They provide this learning opportunity. Um, how it works is they employ I would say, outsource the trainings to companies that specialize in technical trainings in general. So people working there, the instructors, are mostly very, very competent in technical things in general, because they not only teach Harley stuff, but for example, also automotive technicians, or I don't know, AC stuff like this. So everything related to technical and to engineering they teach. So this is a very good opportunity to learn, to meet people from around Europe, other technicians, to meet the trainers, and exchange experience, learn from each other. And also, I have a very supporting boss that allowed me to not only do all the trainings that are that you have to do, also all the optional trainings I could freely attend. So I was free to learn as I please, pretty much. So this was very, very, very good, not to be like limited in my trainings, in my learning path. And I think it really paid off in the end.
It's amazing. I'm really interested in your sort of point about how things are changing and the rises of the kind of need to become effectively not just a mechanic and engineer, but also a software kind of programmer, and the rise of kind of all of the new kind of more electronic kind of style features of bikes today. How do you um, kind of think that it's it's what's the best way of learning about sort of the sort of more kind of computer, electronic, and sort of diagnostic side of your role?
That's a great question. I think that's a question that many technicians are struggling with right now. Um, to me, it came kind of natural, because I always was kind of computer frenzy, and I always liked this stuff. And I have also this kind of mindset that I analyze data very easily, so it comes easy to me. However, I can see with my colleagues, even at work, they struggle a lot. Mm, and I'm not sure there's a easy way around it. From my perspective, it requires a certain mindset, a certain approach to it. You have to set aside what you know from mechanics for a bit and just try to understand what is going on, how everything works. Because coming back to basics, many technicians that are working today on Harleys started way back when the carburetors were still used. And they thought, well, this is easy. Carburetors are easy. And then EFI came in, and suddenly they don't understand anything. But in the end, what is happening inside the engine is exactly the same. The combustion is the same. You know everything works the same way as it used to. It's just metered very carefully and measured very carefully at many different spots, which is a good thing, because it allows for much better running machine in the end. Um, but just coming back to basics of how mechanically engine works, or any pretty much any machine, and why certain measurements are necessary and what do they mean. I think this is kind of the best way to understand how diagnostics work and how to use it, how to utilize it in everyday work. I'm not sure if in automotive right now a technician is also responsible for electrical diagnostics. I believe in my company we also carry car brands. I believe electrical diagnostics are separate people from general technicians and maintenance technicians. And in motorcycles, you kind of have to be all in one. There is no space for having every separate person to do every task. You have to be able to understand the motorcycle as a whole and understand how it works as a whole. It is difficult, but it is an opportunity. I see it this way. This is an opportunity to really understand something better and as a whole unit and not just a part of it.
And you're obviously really advanced, and I know you've won awards for your work as well, which is really impressive. What is it that that drives you? What are you most excited about? When it comes to kind of your role and the future.
I think what really drives me is kind of uncertainty of what will I experience with a motorcycle that day, right? So there's always something new you can learn. Um, I'm very far from claiming to know everything. As you said, I have won an award for my knowledge, for my experience, but I had a good day, I would say. I'm very good at researching information quickly, and this is also something that helps very much. But in the end, there's always something new you can learn. I can easily bet I don't know half the things about Harleys that I could know, and possibly that I should know as a master technician, because there's always something new. And when new bike come in like right now, there's a whole set of new stuff that you can you can encounter. I'm not sure. Um,
Yeah.
so it's not only, of course, to me, it's mostly related to issues with those machines, because then you get to diagnose the issues, of course. Um, Not to say that they have a lot of issues, but something can always happen. Every machine is just a machine that can break. Um, yeah, just the fact that I have to keep on learning new stuff is, I think, the most exciting to me. And the fact that related to tuning, that I always learn something new as well. I try new things. I talk to customers that have different needs, so I have to adjust my ideas to different customers. And this is something that is really exciting to me.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I was going to ask you about how personalized the whole kind of performance and tuning part of your role is.
I think completely, I would say. My idea is that you could see people customizing their Harleys from whenever Harley existed, pretty much from early 1900s. But mostly they were customizing the looks of the bikes. Of course, there were some people that were doing performance work, but it was not widespread. And as I started working here in the dealership, it was pretty much the same. We were doing a lot of visual customization, but then we kind of left the bikes running as they were running from the factory, and very often this was causing some issues because, for example, many people wanted to replace exhaust system on their bikes, or exhaust system and air filter to look different, but that also meant that the engine was no longer running as intended from the factory, and it was just not rideable. It was shaking. It was not giving up torque the way it should. So then I started thinking, if we're customizing the bike to customer needs, or the way it looks in every single way, you can do everything with a Harley. Then why are we not doing the same thing with the way it behaves, the way it rides, with suspension, brakes, and the engines in the end as well? Because needs of someone who is riding, let's say, a very light bike only alone and only in the city are very different than someone who is riding two up with luggage on a very heavy bike and touring mostly. So the way the rev range in which this motorcycle will be living its whole life pretty much is very different. and the demand from the customer is also very different. So we can customize that, tailor that to customers' needs, so that the motorcycle behaves exactly the way he would need it to, let's say, or just expect it to. Um, so it's very interesting area, I would say. And yeah, there's always new parts coming out. Um, so it's constant learning as well.
Must be almost an infinite number or exponential number of variables. When you're thinking about that, how do you approach it?
Yeah, so and in the beginning it was very difficult because I would only be able to base my knowledge on someone else's knowledge and experience that I found mostly online, because in Poland we do not have a huge market for Harley Davidson tuning, or it's not a huge market in the end. Not as big as the US, for example, that is much more experienced in that matter. So in the beginning, it was very difficult. And as you say, there are pretty much infinite possibilities how to match parts together, but very, very little of them work well together. You have to know which parts and why work well together, because just as well as you can greatly improve on performance of a motorcycle, you can greatly reduce it and and have yourself a very unhappy customer in the end as well. Um, and this is also an issue with customers that are picking the parts themselves, using their eyes mostly. And then they come to me and say, well, this is my motorcycle, these are the parts, and it doesn't work like it should. Do something with it. And in the end, there's only so much that a tuner can do. You can optimize the way the parts work, but you're still limited to those parts. If they do not behave the way they should, if they do not cooperate right, if, to put it simply, if physical phenomenons, for example, happening inside a certain exhaust system doesn't cooperate well with valve timing that is dictated by a camshaft, for example, this can completely destroy the whole outcome. And there's nothing I can do as a tuner with that, aside from maybe changing the parts or modifying them.
And how do you see advancements in technology like AI simulations and so on, sort of helping you, continually, I suppose, for the ultimate kind of performance?
That is a tough question for me. I knew that this question is probably going to be asked. And to be honest, I struggle to answer it. I tried using AI for certain things, but due to lack of time to experiment with that, I did not follow up. However, I did try to ask, for example, for certain parts combinations regarding certain customer needs, and the outcome that I got with a very specific parts to use together, and then to use certain things to tune the bike and so on. Um, it was interesting, I would say. Obviously, it's only based on what can be found online, pretty much. Um, but the collective knowledge, you know, is a lot. So uh, I can see it helpful in the future. Mm, at this time, I'm not very fluent with different AI models. I've only used ChatGPT, which is the most famous one. But I'm sure there are many that could, for example, help with tuning the bikes, with work on the dyno, because in the end, what you do is you take data, you compare it to what you would want the data to be, and then you have to manually adjust certain tables which have numerical values in them to have the outcome that you want. So this is something that is when you speak it out loud, it very much sounds like something that AI would be very helpful with. You need the human at the end to verify if what has been done makes any sense. But for sure, in the future, it is going to be helpful. And as far as I know, I've heard about a couple people, a couple well-known tuners that are already utilizing some aspects of AI in their work just to make it faster.
Yeah, I can really see the use case of almost sort of AI-based simulations to help you get to the end goal faster. It doesn't mean that the human, involvement is any less. It's just taking care of some of that, you know, more kind of, I suppose, preparatory kind of stage of the tuning process, right?
Of course, and the mathematics just after a couple hours of adding up numbers or subtracting, you can get really tired. Even if those are very very basic things to do, it can be tiring. So and it takes time. So yeah, of course.
And keeping on the theme, I suppose, of what's next, what other kind of major trends do you see in the coming years, and what steps are you taking to kind of prepare for that?
Um, I think right now, what mostly dictates next steps is the law in the end. So we are very much on a we're in a time where everything changes very fast. Um, I am not sure, for example, if emissions law 3 or 4 years from now, how will they change? And what will be allowed and what will not be allowed. What is the future of internal combustion engines and stuff like that? It's changing all the time. So I think that you cannot really foresee it from my, at least from my perspective. Um, I'm trying to stay open-minded and just learn as much as I can, because I believe firmly that the experience that I gain and the knowledge that I gain can be used in many different ways, even if not directly, then maybe indirectly, which I've also experienced because for about a year I was working on e-learnings, automotive e-learnings. I was authoring and programming e-learnings for Kia specifically. And there was a very cool opportunity to learn more that I got through knowing my trainer from Harley Davidson school. So he reached out to me and gave his suggested that I try doing this. So it was also something that was something it was also something that I could learn a lot from. The trainings were mostly related to electrical cars, so it was a new thing for me, but also based on something that I already knew. So on mechanics, on physics, on electronics. This is something that I'm familiar with. So with you know putting certain work and certain time into learning something new based of that, I could then prepare trainings for technicians around the world. So it was something very cool to try to experience. And I think this is something that uh, can be the future. Uh, I'm always open for new opportunities to learn and to develop. So I love my job, but I cannot tell you what will I will be doing in 10 years from now, for example. So I think that having the open minds and having the language is important, and knowing how to work on a computer is important. And something will happen, something will work out, some opportunities will arise for sure. Even if the changes in the automotive industry will be mm, not very good for me, then at this point I have the experience and knowledge to do something else related to automotive. I think so, at least, hopefully.
Mhm. I, I don't think we've heard the last of you from this conversation, that's for sure. Um, so, last question for you, really. Going back to the beginning, um, what one piece of advice would you give someone entering the industry today?
I think humility is very important, because I was also a victim to that after working, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years on motorcycles. At this point, I thought I knew pretty much everything there is to know, and mechanics are just mechanics. So if I know mechanics, I can work on any vehicle, and I was very wrong at that point. And now a couple of years passed, and I've learned a huge amount of informations since then, and I've acquired a huge amount of experience since then, and now I am fully aware of how little I know in reality and how much more there is to learn. So having the humility to not settle and just keep on searching for new information, keep on searching for new knowledge, new experience, new skills is very important. Just the perseverance to try to be the best you can at your job, because in the end you are doing um, if you're working on Harleys, for example, if someone is starting their job at Harley dealership or any other dealership of a brand they're passionate about, mm, your work uh, can make someone's dreams come true in the end. So, or it can destroy those dreams if you do your job incorrectly. Then someone maybe spent a lot of money on a vehicle that they dreamed since they were a kid, and it just doesn't work correctly. And it can be annoying to say the least, or dangerous as well. So um, the humility and trying to just do your best. Um, I think this is the most important.
What a great answer. Nikolai, you've given us, as a master technician, a masterclass today. And I'd like to thank you for joining Leap Forecast. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Thank you very much. It was nice meeting you, Justin.